Welcome to the Call to Write chat. I'm April Gardner from Write Start Fiction Studio, where we help Christian fiction writers start right, stay faithful to their calling, and finish strong. This series is all about conversations with Christian writers and the unique paths God has used to bring them to the page. Today, I'm pleased to welcome award-winning contemporary Christian romance author Lori DeJong. Lori writes love stories that celebrate God's grace, redemption, and the hope that can be found even in life's most challenging circumstances. Originally from Phoenix, Arizona, Lori now calls Texas home, where she lives with her husband of more than 30 years. Her debut novel, Love's True Calling, launched an acclaimed series that has earned multiple awards and finalist honors, including recognition from ACFW, the SELA Awards, and the Angel Awards. It's pretty cool. I'm excited to have Lori with us today to talk about her writing journey and her stories. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I appreciate this opportunity just to share with you my journey and how God's just really, brought me into this.
Absolutely. So you are right down the road for me. I am in San Antonio, so I'm waving
Yeah.
at you down
Oh, no
I-35.
way. Yep, you're
There's
right.
probably an
We're just
accident.
north of Austin and Georgetown. So yeah,
Yeah,
so down the road, as they say here in
just
Texas.
just probably an hour
Right.
away. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, I mean, I already did a little in the intro, but tell us a little bit more about what you write and where you are in your publishing journey and how your calling or how God has factored into all of that.
Okay, the God part is so easy because without him, I would not be here. I would not have, the stories that I have in my head. On my journey right now, I'm actually moving into romantic suspense. My last, the book that came out, it's a new series that debuted last October with Mistletoe and Malice.
Uh-huh.
It is romantic suspense, and but it leans, I'm contemporary romance is kind of my comfort zone. I kind of just fell into this one. I pitched this story to my publisher without realizing, that's really a suspense, and they picked it up, and I was like, okay, I guess I write romantic suspense. And really, it was my best-selling book to date. So I got a lot of good feedback on it. So that was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And so the second book comes out this September. I'm actually working on edits. I was working on them all day today, and but I started out with contemporary Christian, and I wrote my first series. They were all contemporary, just contemporary Christian. It was a series based around like a youth ministry type situation. And so at this time, I have four novels published and one novella, and I have two more novels coming out, and possibly a novella. We're pitching that to our there's myself and three other authors are pitching that to my publisher. So hopefully they'll pick that up. And so if that gets picked up, I'm scheduled through 2028, which makes me very
Wow.
happy because I like to, yeah, I really like to have something going. So I'm not thinking, oh, where am I gonna, what am I gonna do next? So I try to stay ahead so I can have something that's coming out at least once a year.
Mm.
So, and as far as God and where he comes into this, it took me a wee little bit. Um, when I first started writing, I was writing toward Harlequin, like the clean romances with Harlequin, because back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, Christian fiction wasn't what it is today. And I really wanted to write around about true life themes and things that we all go through, and that it's not an easy road, and we go through all the same things everybody else does. It's not, not rosy just because we became Christians, but that we have this father who has a plan for us and is walking us through that. So it took about a couple of years after I joined a national writers organization to realize, okay, he's wanting me to write Christian fiction because I was writing mainstream and all my characters went to church. They all prayed. They wouldn't do certain things. And I thought, this isn't going to fly. It's like I'm writing Christian characters for the mainstream market. And I thought that's not going to work. So I think I'll go, okay, Lord, I know what you're telling me now. I need to be writing, more for you and less for a market, so to speak, and then let him just guide wherever that should be. So
Oh,
that's kind of where I
wow.
am and how I answered that calling. I just you know, kind of fought it for a teeny bit, and then I thought, okay, yeah, I think that's what
That's
I
interesting that
need.
that you naturally went towards writing Christian characters and faith elements. And even though you weren't necessarily thinking Christian publishing, but that's where your instinct went as a child of God, was to
Yeah.
write that sort of story. I love that.
That's the
Go
life
ahead.
I understood, and
Right.
when you give your characters, I mean, they are not like me. My characters are very different than me, but I have to understand a little bit about the lifestyle, that they live in faith. And there was so much about other things I really didn't understand, so I couldn't really write them because it didn't feel good, you
That's a really
know.
great way of putting
There.
it. Every interview that I've done so far, and this is applies to myself as well, is there was never a thought I'm going to write people of another faith or people of no
Hmm.
faith. It was always going to be, I'm going to have Christian characters in my novel, and
Hmm.
this is going to be faith based. Whether the notion was I'm definitely going to start out in the Christian publishing industry or not, that is where we go. And I think that's just the working of the Holy Spirit through our lives. And
Absolutely.
and guiding us to be that encouragement and that light in a dark
Hmm.
world, whether somebody who doesn't know the Lord picks it up or another sister picks it up and needs an encouragement, needs light shown, you know.
Yes.
And you were talking about how it's not all rosy, and oh, that's so true, right? Our Christian walk is hard, and so is the writing life. It is hard, and we embark on it knowing it's going to be hard, and boy is it, and we hit some pretty bumpy trials sometimes. So, is there a passage of scripture that you go back to for encouragement in those times? Or maybe not. Maybe you just have a theme verse that you're just always clinging to for your writing career or for maybe even a particular book. How does God's word factor into your writing career, basically?
Right. On my website, I have my theme scripture, and it's Psalm 19. Um, so I knew it until we got on here. Psalm 19:14.
Okay.
Um, May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Because I feel like whatever comes out here, my fingertips starts here, or actually it starts here. Kind of
Yes.
starts, or it might be a thought and it works its way into my heart and then it'll work. And so I that just really speaks to me, even though it doesn't say anything about writing, but it all starts with what we think on, what do we focus on, in our lives and as a whole. So I kind of write by the seat of my pants or
Mhm.
intuitively, as they're calling it now, which I like that word so much better. Um, I have like the five major plot points when I sit down to start a novel. But then I write intuitively between each plot point and just kind of let the characters
Mhm.
take me, where they want to go. And every single book that I've written, a Bible verse, a scripture
Mm.
just comes to life. I mean, it's something that the character might quote,
Mm.
or they might hear it in a message or something, but there's always been something. And I love that because it's not like I planned it. Okay, we're going to write toward this verse. It just kind of came naturally into the story. And so that means the world to me that the Lord can just put that word
Yes.
where he wants it
Mhm.
in the story.
Yes.
So
It's living. His word is living.
yes,
And
absolutely.
it when it comes to life, it's because it is alive.
Yeah.
It is perpetually
It
applicable, and he drops it into our minds and in our hearts. And how many times have I been writing and it's actually applied to me in that moment? And then
is.
it means so much more going to the page, and it's an inspiration to me. And you just pray that somebody will pick up on this message and that it will touch their hearts and their lives and uplift them in some way. Yeah.
Oh, I've definitely been convicted by my own characters. I'm like, okay, okay, I get it.
Yes.
I need to work on that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So on this hard, I'm making it sound miserable. It is not the writing journey. But have you
Moments.
ever, we always have books say, how about you tell me a story of a time that you have been discouraged? You have felt, maybe I'm just spitballing. I'm not enough. I'll never find my way through this story. It's a hard time in my personal life. You've hit a wall, whether it was emotionally, spiritually, mentally in the craft. Do you have a story along those lines that you could share with us, maybe, and then tell us how you were able to work through that?
Yeah, I have like this very winding road to publication because I started writing like in the late 90s and I wasn't a part of any writers groups or anything. I was just reading those little Harlequin, the clean ones,
Mhm.
back to back, and so I thought I could do this. I can write these. And so I just started sitting down. I just wrote a bunch of stories. I probably wrote 12 that are all still in notebooks that nobody will ever see because they're horrible. But then in 2002, I joined Romance Writers of America, which at the time was just a phenomenal organization. And I got such a wonderful education through them. But I realized upon joining that organization, I had no idea what I was doing, that there is a craft that is involved in this. And then I was like, oh, I thought I had this natural ability, so maybe I don't. Maybe this doesn't come naturally to me. And then I realized everyone's working really hard at it. That's why we're all here. And so I stayed with that. After we moved here, I went to the Austin group because we moved here in 2005. And in 2009, our lives kind of upended when my husband was laid off. And I had to go back to work. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years and I I just I couldn't pay my dues anymore. I mean, things just were really bad for like 2 years before he found, a job and or a new job. We were both working at Target at one point in time, so it was a totally different life. And I quit. I quit writing because I was in such a bad place emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. There were so many times where I even asked God, okay, are are you real? Because do you see me? Do you see us? Do you see, we were doing all the things. We're involved in church and doing all the stuff, and yet all this horrible stuff is happening to us. And
Mhm.
he just really brought us our faith. I mean, and our marriage got stronger and our faith got, I wouldn't want to walk that valley again, but I tell you, that's probably my biggest growth spurt spiritually was during those years that we were just fighting to keep our heads above water financially. And so my daughter graduated from high school in 2018. And so we were empty nesters. She's our only child. And I started getting that. I was working full time, but I started getting that itch, but the fire had never gone out. It just kind of was smoldering a little bit. And because even during those 11 years, every now and then I would take out a manuscript and just go through it. In fact, Mistletoe and Malice, what became Mistletoe and Malice, is one of those. And it was one that I had written like way back in 2000. And I would just go back and I would just kind of scribble in it and stuff, but I wasn't really writing. I wasn't really doing anything. And so in 2019, a gal from our church, I found out she was an author. And I said, I used to write and I was thinking about maybe getting back to it because I just feel like I really, really want to see how if I could still do this. And she goes, "Oh, well, you need to come to my ACFW chapter meeting. It's American Christian Fiction Writers." And so I did, and that was at the end of 2019. I joined them in 2020, and then the world came to a complete halt in March. And but because of that, so many because when I came back, the entire landscape had changed for writing. I didn't know what platform was. I was like, why do I need a website? I don't have anything to put on a website, but you were hearing all this stuff about social media. And I'm like, I don't really like social media and all this stuff. And so it was a whole different ball game. And I thought I need to re-educate myself. They're talking about deep POV and all this stuff. Like, I've not heard those terms. I loved it, but it was like, that's not what we called it back in the day. And so I thought I'm going to this first year I'm to educate myself. And all of the conferences and retreats and classes, they all went virtual. So they were much less expensive. You didn't have to travel, you didn't have to stay in a hotel. And so I did. I spent that first year just relearning stuff and getting up to speed. And in one of those classes, I wrote a story and it was about plotting. And so I plotted this entire story, and I had kind of been working on one that I had started many, many years ago and kind of took it back and was trying to see if I could make something of it. And so I put that story aside after the class. Well, those characters just kept bugging me and bugging me. I don't know if they do that with you, but my characters, they
Yeah.
just kind of live with me. And they were like, you need to write this story. I really think it was God saying, you need to write this story. This is the one I want to use right now. And so I went, okay, I went back, picked up that story, and that became my debut novel. That homework assignment became my debut novel. So, I mean, God can just, those were the times where I thought, I'm not ever going to be published because now I'm back. I'm almost 60. Am I going to be published? Am I going to make this dream come true? Did I mess it up by not writing for 11 years? So I had a lot of those doubts. And I had to realize at some point in time, God just really said, I've called you to write. I did not call you to be published. I may have a critique partner or a contest judge or somebody who needs to see what you wrote. And if it's just that one person, then his will be done. Do you know? So I thought, okay, so being published, I feel like has just been going farther down that road, but it's continuing just to follow him because it's hard to get published and it's hard to stay published because if your book doesn't sell the next one, your publisher doesn't really want to stick with you, your audience doesn't want to stick with you. So yeah, there's and I this afternoon I had doubts because I like I said, I'm editing and I'm seeing all this stuff going, what was I thinking? What is that? And I thought, well, thank goodness for editors,
That's what
because
all
they're
these
like, oh,
rounds are for. Yeah.
no, I love it. I'm so grateful for editors, I tell you, because we're so close to our own work and it's hard to get that distance to see things. So I love it when they come back and say, let's try this and let's try that. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so that's where I am today.
You
Just
know,
I still have those doubts. With every single book, it seems like I've had a crisis of confidence at some point in time. And that's just the enemy. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely.
He's just
Yeah,
saying,
it is.
you're not any good. And you're like, well, God thinks I can do this.
Yeah, and we just keep pointing back. You just point back to him.
Ex-
You're right, but
exactly.
God,
hmm
but God. Yeah.
But God,
Yes.
absolutely.
Something that you
Yes.
keep coming back to, as you were talking, I was listening, you kept coming back to, I learned. It was
hmm
a skill. It was a craft. When you said that about social media, about platform, about the writing craft, when you came back and it was like, oh no, when you went to that writers group and was it Romance Writers of America? And you're like, oh, I actually write really bad. I
Yeah.
think we all
Oh,
have that moment, and you're
oh.
like, oh, I don't have any natural talent actually. And I think there are very, very few of us who actually do have just natural talent, like the person who can sit down and just play on the piano without learning. It's the same. We feel like, so many of us when we start out, we feel like we should be able to just sit down and write a Mozart level piece. And
Well,
how
that's a
many of
very
us,
imagine.
how many of us can actually sit down at a piano? I mean, we have to go the little chopsticks first, you know what I'm saying? Like it takes years and so much awful racket before we are playing something worth presenting to the world.
hmm
But we feel like when we sit down and write, it's supposed to just be beautiful and perfect. But it's the same thing. We've got to
hmm
put in our time and pay our dues with those craft books and the writers' conferences and the critique partners that
hmm
just have red ink all over our pages.
hmm
And it's all a
hmm
learning process. And your solution to that discouragement, it sounded like, besides just having to just travel through it and learn those
Yeah.
lessons or whatever it was God wanted to teach you as you were growing, was just learning, was just hitting
hmm
hitting the books and learning what it is you needed to learn, whether that was spiritually or craft or whatever. So
Yeah.
that sound,
I
did I just
still
put
feel that
words in your
way.
mouth or
No, no, no.
okay.
Perfect. It's perfect because I still, in fact, just was it 2 days ago? I was talking to another writer and I said, you know what? I mean, Diane Mills, huge author, very famous, has written a million books. And I heard something just recently where she said, I think she reads like a craft book, one craft book every month or something like that. And I thought, that's Diane Mills, and she's reading about craft. She said, I just want to be the best I can be because we answer to the Lord and we're wanting to do this for the Lord. And that just really touched my heart because I thought we never should stop striving to learn
To
and
improve our craft.
yeah,
Yeah.
and to improve our craft and to see if there's ways that we can put something else in there and
Yeah.
just, but I was really impressed with that when I heard that about her. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I try and do a few a year as well. Always, whether it's a book, I'm like on a podcast series or whatever, just always trying to improve. Right now, I'm reading, and this is totally off topic, but it is such a good book. It's CS, and I'm not sure how you say her last name, Lakin, but
Oh.
it's on microtension, and it
hmm
is. Have you read it? Do you know what one
I
I'm
haven't, but
talking
I'm
about?
familiar with her. I did
Yes.
another one on writing romance or something
She's
that she did.
so good.
hmm
This book I'm just devouring because it's
mm
very high level craft of how to make your writing shine. Put those brilliant moments on the page, and it's not that
hmm
difficult. It's not that difficult. She makes it just sound so doable.
Yeah, just sit down. Let
Just
your
sit
fingers do the
down.
talking.
Yeah, play your Mozart piece on your page. No, no, it does take a lot of practice. But okay,
It
getting
does.
back to the topic, if there's what might you say to somebody who is at that place that you were at when you were discouraged and you were going through a difficult time? What encouragement might you give them?
The first one would be don't stop writing for 11 years. That is really not what you want to do. And I could have kept writing. I didn't, because and that was a choice I made. And it always is a choice. I just was exhausted, in every way. And instead of just plodding through and doing what I could, even if it was 20 minutes a day, I just didn't do anything.
Mm,
And I regret that, but I can't live there because if I live there, I can't move forward.
right.
But that would be the main thing is it's gonna be hard and you're gonna get rejected and you're gonna get critique partners that are going like, this isn't going to work. You need to kind of redo this. And I mean, early on, I was getting critiques that were like, this just doesn't work. And I was like, really? Because I really liked this story. And they're like, well, there's no conflict. Oh, yeah, you got to have that. You got to have goals. You got to have motivate. You got to have all these things. And it takes time. Like you said, you're not going to come in and just know all this stuff automatically. So that would be the first thing is find your people. Find a writers group, whether it's online or in person, whatever, surround yourself, and if you can, surround yourself with Christian authors because I have never found anybody competitive. In all of these years that I've written Christian fiction, no one's really, we're not competing. I don't feel like we're competing. We like, hey, tell me how I can help you. I really want to help someone coming up behind me and say, this is what I've learned, and kind of like how I do with my daughter. I want to teach her those things that I've learned so she doesn't have to go through those same things. Well, for new authors, I'm like, let me tell you how I did this, and see if you can bypass that, or whatever. But there are some things you just have to get through. And so that would be the first thing is find your people. Do not, do not give up. And just keep writing. And every time you write a full novel, that's another thing, is if you start something, finish it
Mhm.
because that's practice. And like I said, I wrote 12 full novels that are in a bin somewhere in my garage, but they were practice. And everything I've ever written has been to get better. And so that would be my biggest piece of
That's
advice.
great. That's really great advice. So find your community, practice
Mhm.
writing, don't quit.
Just
Whatever
quit.
you
Don't
do,
quit. Don't be
don't
me.
quit.
Don't quit.
Keep pushing through, keep pushing through.
Absolutely.
Well, Lori, before we close, do you have anything coming out? Maybe you have this Mistletoe Malice. Is this your new release or is it going to be coming? I can't remember if you said this is coming or already.
This, it's already out. It
Okay.
came out last October, and it's up for a Carol Award, which I was stunned
Oh,
about. I was like, what
congratulations.
is happening right now? So I'm very excited about that.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just like stunned. And so that came out in October. It's a series. So that was book one. Book two comes out September 15th of this year. And I have repeated characters. It's not the same main characters in every one, but like the main character, my main male protagonist in book two was in book one. And then there, the couple from book one are in book two. I just love to kind of keep their stories going. And so people can see kind of how they're after the HEA, the happily ever after. I've always been like, I want to know what happens next. What happens to these
Yeah.
people? And so I try to just, when I write a series, just involve all of that. But yeah, that's coming out in September. Book three comes out September of 27. And then I hope to have this new novella out in February of 28. We're on the schedule, but we still haven't gotten, we haven't
Okay.
really pitched it to our publisher yet. So they're just
Yeah.
going on faith that it's going to be decent, but who knows? It may be taken off the schedule. But I hope that that goes through because it's
Wow.
it's going to be a fun one. And I guess I'm going to stay with romantic suspense for now because even my next novel that I want to pitch to get to stay on the schedule is romantic suspense. And it was like, I didn't even realize I was writing those things, But I
Well,
do have to say mine lean very heavy into the romance. There's some that are so high octane. I don't know that I'd call mine high octane.
okay.
There's high emotion, but I don't know that there's like, constant just, and so for people who liked my contemporary romances, I think that they will still like my romantic suspenses because the romance is really the main
The
story.
romance is the driver, but it has a sub
Yes.
thread of
Yep.
suspense. Ah, that's
Absolutely.
how I like mine. Well, give us the premise very briefly of Mistletoe Malice and then to let us know where we can find it.
Okay. Mistletoe and Malice is about an heiress who has been targeted for reasons unknown. So she needs bodyguards, but she doesn't want bodyguards. And so the the main the lead guy, her bodyguard, she has to be with her 24/7. And so she's living it for the time being because she's being stalked with her parents in their estate. And so he's having to stay there. And he was like, why are you putting me on this assignment to just babysit a spoiled heiress? He doesn't, and then he starts to find out really who she is and what her life means to her, and that she's a very staunch Christian. He's in a crisis of faith. So it's really their story of how they work together to overcome this evil that's kind of targeted her, and then how each one of them just misread, kind of misjudged the other, and that they can, see what they can make of this relationship being from two completely different
Yeah.
worlds. She's in that 1% and he's not.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, it was a fun story
I love a
to
good
write.
bodyguard romance.
I know, I
It's
do
one of my
too.
favorite tropes.
I do.
I love this. There's a stalker and a vulnerable female. See, I am all about the damsel in distress. Sorry, I just don't fall into that modern girl. Like, I like a good damsel in distress who can stand up for herself every now and then. But anyway, sounds like a really great story. So where, I'm assuming readers or listeners can find it on
Yeah.
Amazon, on your website.
Amazon. It's on paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle
Oh,
Unlimited,
I
check it
do.
out. Yeah. So
Okay, great.
yeah, Kindle Unlimited, and then also like Barnes and Noble online, Walmart online, and what else?
What's your
I don't
website?
sell from my website.
Yeah.
My website is Lori DeYoung Writes. So it's Lori DeYoung, WRITES.com. And
And
I
D
don't sell from
Young,
there, but oh my, yeah, DeYoung, DEJONG. So it's
DEJONG. Okay.
mhm. Yeah, Lori DeYoung Writes dot
Okay.
com.
All
So,
right.
so yeah,
So
I guess
readers
that's
can get
really
to know you
it.
there at
Yeah.
LoriDYoungWrites.com, and your books are on Amazon and elsewhere,
Yeah.
anywhere pretty much they want.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for chatting with me today. I'd love getting to know you.
Yeah, this is fun. My Texas neighbor, so that's
Yeah. Yeah. Stay cool. Stay cool. Hey,
you
did you
too.
hear
I
about,
know, right?
yeah, I know we're shutting down, but real quick, did you hear about the giraffe that's on the loose in San Antonio?
No. How'd that
Yes.
happen?
There's a giraffe named Gracie who is lost. They have lost an entire giraffe in Texas Hill Country.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
been like 3 days now,
Really?
unless
How
something's
did
changed in the last few hours. It's a private citizen who has a ranch with some wildlife, exotic wildlife, and it got out. And everybody's like, "Where's Gracie?" And there's memes, and you just, it's been an adventure around
I
San
can't
Antonio.
imagine. And I love
I
giraffes.
know, with those long legs, who knows?
Oh,
Maybe she'll make it up your way.
I hope so. I hope
Wouldn't
she's
that be something?
acclimated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, poor
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, well, prayers for Gracie, and also for
Yes.
your writing career and for whatever story the Lord puts next on your heart, and for the readers that are going to be um, exposed to the message that you have to give them. So, okay, Lori,
Right.
thank you so
Thank you.
much for being with me today.
Thank you. This was fun. I had a great time.
Great.